Welcome to battle number 2 of week number 8 of the FNF Seafoam Draft League. I'm your host, Lion Hugs, and I'll be commentating this live battle between Coach King of the Sacramento Samurotts versus Coach Colin of the Pennsylvania Porygon-Zs. Before we go ahead and get started, let's go ahead and review our Megas and Z Privileged Pokemon. In King's Corner, we have Z Any Dragapult as well as Z Attack Primarina. And on Colin's side, we have Z Any Togekiss and Z Attack Kartana. So both players have decided to bench their Megas for this battle. Also, just a quick recap before we go to first thoughts. This is quite obviously a replay battle. I'm sorry if I misspoke earlier. Anyway, let's just go to some quick initial thoughts before we get started. Looking at Colin's team, and quite obviously Togekiss, kind of infamous for its String Grace flinching. So that is something that King will have to potentially look out for, especially since, well, King's Pokemon are overall mostly so, but Dragapult does not want to be hit with a Thunder Wave, for example, and then constantly paraflinched, or if Togekiss is Scarfed, it'll definitely go ahead. It should outspeed. So there are some good, I want to say there's some good counters with Bolton and Gigalith, but it does depend on loadout and stats, of course. So that is something that Colin will have to probably check out for. However, you do also have Kartana, very, very fast, very strong, and I don't see any obvious counters to it. I want to say probably Buzzwole, assuming it's a chance to go ahead and actually fight. However, if Togekiss goes down, I do believe that'll also allow Dragapult and obviously Buzzwole and to an extent Bolton to go ahead and sort of do heavy damage to Colin's team, as at least between Buzzwole and Dragapult, it does seem that between the two of them and their coverages that they could pretty much hit everybody pretty hard. Even with, for example, Piloswine and Eviolite, knockoff would be really useful, assuming that is its loadout. Also, curiously, both sides do have Stealth Rock setters with Gigalith and Piloswine, so we could see these two potential leads, which would be also pretty interesting given that both these Stealth Rock setters are can also do super effective hits on the other. So it'd be interesting to see if those are the leads and whether or not the other opponent can outread the other, respectively. Another thing Colin this time around should look out for, is Primarina. That is a pretty bulky Pokemon, and if Kartana is down, Kartana and potentially Togekiss, depending on the loadout, Colin will probably struggle to go ahead and beat her, just given her sheer bulk and sort of almost like a wall breaker status with that like high special attack. Not to mention, it does have access to Psychic, so its Tentacruel isn't exactly the straight-up counter that one might think, but we will see. Again, of course, with Kartana out still in the field, and especially, or also Togekiss with a potential para-flinching strategy, it's not really too big of a concern, but we will see. So without any further ado, let's go ahead and begin. And out comes Sparky the Bolton versus Big Pete the Piloswine. Looks like King was probably trying to do a scouting action with Volt Switch. This did not work. Instead, out comes Crusher. Big Pete is probably going to go ahead and set up Stealth Rock. Indeed it does. And it's Colin's probably going to switch out to Togekiss. Oh, no, instead, Durell Deeds sets up Psychic Surge. The battlefield just got weird. Oh, and instead out comes Alter Ego, probably expecting a fighting type attack from Buzzwole. And Duraldi sets up a substitute. Interesting choice. Alter Ego the Mischievous does respond with a Pain Split, however it does not work. You cannot split your pain with a substitute. Instead, out comes Kumatora, the Togekiss. However, Duraludece is behind a substitute. Ooh, and out comes that Expanding Force, doing 68% damage. This may not be the best position for Kumatora to be in. And Expanding Force goes again. It looks like this is not a Scarfed Togekiss. And down goes Kumatora. The score is now 6-5 in King's favor. Sorry, checking the speed. And out comes Rajang, the Darmanitan. And it does a U-turn. Alright, nice pivot, and it takes out the substitute. Out comes Big Pete once again. Assuming Duraludece will probably swim with another Expanding Force. Indeed it does. Doing massive damage with that Psychic Terrain. And down it goes. Obviously with the leftovers, it cannot hold a Terrain Extender. Expanding Force goes again, only this time bringing Big Pete down to 10%. And out comes the Icicle Crash with a critical hit. I don't think that critical hit was necessary. And down goes Duraludece. The score's now an even 5-5, but Big Pete's not looking too good right now. I'm assuming Sparky's going to do some kind of priority move. No, instead Big Pete does it. Ice Shard. Probably to get one last hit in before it goes down. Crunch, interesting choice, probably to counter Mischievous. Down goes Big Pete, and the score is now 5-4 in King's favor. And in response, out comes Rajang, doing an Earthquake, super effective against Sparky. Interesting that it's faster. Could've sworn Bolton would have been faster. I guess that was not a speed-invested Bolton. Out comes Crusher the Buzzwole. Scores even 4-4. And in response, out comes Alter Ego the Mischievous. Probably expecting a fighting type move. Oh, and instead CEO Depulse, the Dragapult, comes out. Interesting choice. Dragapult uses a U-turn, bringing Alter Ego down just a little bit, 5%. And instead, out comes Primapult. It's probably expecting a Will-O-Wisp. Hex is used, interestingly. Doesn't do that much damage. And out comes Aquarion, the Tentacruel. Primapult uses Flip Turns and doesn't really do too much damage. Out comes CEO Depulse back in her place, doing a Thunderbolt, doing nice damage to Aquarion. Not enough to finish it off, of course. Ooh, and it responds with a knockoff. Choice Specs has been removed. Without Bolton, it's kind of hard to break through Tentacruel. I'm assuming that means Primarina does not have Psychic. CEO Dragapult does use U-turn and brings back out Primarina. The Stealth Rock is chipping away at everyone. And ooh, Will-O-Wisp, it missed, and out comes a Z move. I wonder if this will be a Psychic Shattered Psyche. Indeed, it is a Psychic attack. I feel like that should have been saved for Tentacruel, but Alter Ego is now brought down to 42%, though a Pain Split brings it back up for Alter Ego. Good that it did, otherwise we would not have survived that Moonblast. Out goes a Hex, doesn't really do that much damage either, but it's probably one last parting shot before it goes down. And down goes Alter Ego. The score is now 4-3 in King's favor. Really nice back and forth we're having here. Aquarion, interesting choice given that we know that Primapult has a Psychic attack, but Aquarion is faster and uses Sludge Bomb to take out Primapult. Score is back down to an even 3-3. I'm surprised we haven't seen Kartana just yet, but out comes Mountain the Gigalith. Shiny Gigalith. Setting up a Sandstream. That'll start chipping away at Aquarion. Ooh, the Scald burns it. It's not looking good for Mountain. Alright, and we have Stealth Rock set up on Colin's team. Colin doesn't seem to be switching as often as King, though. So at this point in the battle, I wonder how much momentum can actually be gained from that Stealth Rock. Another Scald brings Mountain down into killing range. And a Stone Edge goes through, but it is a critical hit. Unfortunately, it only brings Porygon down to 18% health. Now 11 thanks to Sandstorm. And Skull takes out Mountain. The score is now 3-2 in Colin's favor, but Aquarion is on its last legs. Especially thanks to that Sandstorm. If Aquarion does not leave... Well, actually, if he leaves, it can't come back thanks to Stealth Rock. Out comes Crusher the Buzzwole. It's using a Protect, hoping for Sandstorm to finish it off. It's a pretty smart choice. Also prevents it from being burned from that Scald. It's a very safe move. I'm assuming we're going to see Darmanitan come out next. The score is back down to an even 2-2. Out comes Rajang the Darmanitan indeed. And the Flare Blitz is more than enough to finish off Crusher. The Rocky Helmet and the recoil damage bring Rajang down to 32%. Not to mention Sandstorm getting one less turnip chip. Oh no, it did not. This was the final turn, my apologies. Out comes CEO D Pulse, King's last Pokemon. And Flare Blitz goes through again. Interesting choice. I wonder if that Rajang was scarfed. Dragapult should have outsped. Interesting. So ends the battle. The score is 2-0 in Colin's favor. Though that was a hard win for Colin to achieve. If that Dragapult could have outsped, Rajang would be down, and it still probably would have been a victory for Colin depending on the moveset for Kartana, but still, just goes to show you both players clearly had a lot of trading back and forth with their tactical decisions, and once again, just another very exciting match. Please stay tuned for more of the FNF Seafoam Isles draft league. I've been your coach, Lionhunt, signing out.